And the initial passivity of the police, really. I mean, how can we explain that, do you think?
Well, it is a little strange, and there are various different explanations flying around. First of all, the group that did it was pretty small. The main demonstration was enormous, somewhere, according to estimates, about 500,000 people. But a few hundred broke away and moved towards LegCo, or the Legislative Council, which is the parliament, effectively, in Hong Kong. And from that group, a smaller group, launched the attack on Parliament. So we're really only talking about a few dozen people. The police watched this happening and did absolutely nothing about it. So why didn't they do anything about it? Well, quite clearly, given the force they had at their disposal and their past record, they could quite easily have contained the situation before allowing it to get out of hand, and the scenes that we saw happened. There are many different theories flying around. One of them is that it was simply a trap set by the police or by the authorities in Hong to lure the protesters into excesses which could be used by the authorities to criticise the protesters lately. And certainly that seems to be a theory that's gaining ground. Others are saying simply, look, the police have learned their lesson. They've been accused of brutality in past protests, including the one in June, and they decided that they would stand back, be tolerant. That's a possibility as well. But whatever the case, there's no doubt that the protesters have damaged their own collective goal and image by taking these steps. And Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong, was very quick to point that out in a pre-dawn press conference this Tuesday, saying that this was not in line with the sort of respect for law and order which normally Hong Kong citizens have.
What about those protesters? I mean, not just the protesters in the Parliament, but the protesters in general. Just remind us what their key demands are, Rob.
Well, the key demands are pretty clear. Obviously, the first and most important is the withdrawal of the extradition bill that was introduced by the LegCo, by the Parliament that I was referring to just a second or two ago, which would allow for extradition of Hong Kong citizens to mainland China. That hasn't happened yet. That's one of the main causes of the demonstrations. It's been put in suspense, but not actually abolished. Now, the protesters are demanding complete abolition. In addition to that, they want an investigation of the order given to fire rubber bullets at previous demonstrations. They want an end of the characterisation of the protesters as rioters. And there's a very good reason for that, because rioting carries a 10-year jail sentence in Hong Kong. They want the release of arrested protesters, and most of all, they want the resignation of Carrie Lam herself, the chief executive. It's not going to happen, quite clearly. There's an awful lot of pressure from Beijing on the administration to dig in and not make concessions. But I think what this reflects more than anything else is a deepening sense of frustration amongst the people of Hong Kong, not just with the extradition bill, but with a much greater sense that their freedoms and rights guaranteed under the Constitution are being eroded by mainland China.
You mentioned Beijing there, Rob.